back, everybody. It is the Working Brother back at you with another talk. Tim Kirby is back.
Well, hello. It's good to see you. I'm always happy to be on the program here, especially
Excellent
because
to have you back.
It's one of the more fun interviews. You know, man. Some people really keep the interview in a box. You let it out of the box, so it's good to be.
Yeah, I like to think so. I like to keep it casual. That's why I call it a talk, not an interview. Tell us what's been going on with you, and tell us, or actually tell the subscribers that you actually have talked to Dan Castle, and that you guys are cool, and there's not going to be a showdown, because that was the last upload.
I think Dan may have misinterpreted a sort of. I kind of ignored some of his messages for a while. Again, as I say in my program a lot when I do live streams, not because you're a bad person, but like August was one of just the worst months ever. I had to make work happen. I had this thing where I got sort of, it wasn't hard, but I kind of got forced to take a vacation because my daughter had no one to live with. So I was like, man, my daughter's going to need me for like 10 days. And since it was the summer and, you know, she could hang out in the woods living with me, I was like, well, I don't know. I guess you could just have your friends come and live with us too. And it turned into like this thing, like,
summer camp, basically.
Like a girls' night out that lasted for 2 weeks or whatever. And I was just also burnt out from work. But I also had, as I guess we'll talk about today, the playoffs. For the minor league of American football here in Russia. So the old man doesn't quite make it to play in the Super League very often, if ever, but I'm definitely good enough for to be on the best team in the minor league. So we had to deal with the whole playoffs, and first we had to go to no, the first game was in Moscow. That wasn't too bad. Then for the championship, we had to go down to Novorossiysk, which is basically by like, kind of for people who are foreigners, I guess around Sochi. We could say it like that, so you might be able to find it on a map. But so it was quite the adventure. The playoffs were really intense. There was a lot of training coming up into that. So in August, basically, Dan wrote when I was in this sort of insane mode of a weird, and I was just like, I saw, but eventually we had an actual discussion, like he called me up or I called him. I forget who Alfred to call who, whichever, it doesn't fucking matter. And we basically had a sort of talk like this, and I explained to him a lot of these nuances about all this stuff and this, that, and the other. So about this whole American Village thing, which is, it is a tough thing building a small city. I'll put it that way. Right now, we're in the hunt for investors, and if we get the investors, things will be good. If we don't get the investors, things will become legally complicated and very murky.
So basically, you're saying you need investors in order to get the legal stuff done? Like you need the money to put down, basically?
Yeah, basically at this point, the government's like, cool, how about we need someone to pay to rezone this land and subdivide it? And that's got to be
what
us.
Kind of money? So, what kind of money are you talking about? Are you talking about like on the city or town level? Is it like millions or is it like millions of rubles?
It's 20 grand for that part of it, but that's 20 grand I don't have. But then you actually get into the part of building, over 100 houses, and you need like to do them all at the same time. But it'd be really nice to
deposit basically for that as well. You need a deposit for the building stuff as well.
Yeah, that would be really, really beneficial. I would say at the absolute minimum, we could at least say and go forward with just paying off to rezone it and subdivide it, and then maybe worry about how we're going to build this later, or have people sort of on an individual basis get into this. That's where things are more flexible. But at the same time, I bought an apartment downtown for the kids, and I can't take out a second loan. I wouldn't mind risking $20,000 on something like this, but I can't get a second loan in Russia. They don't do that. No second loan for you. Only one loan.
Not even if you like go to a different bank or like an institution. No, huh? Interesting. Yeah. So you can't do that paying off your credit card with another credit card, huh?
No, the only thing I think was the closest was right after like the day I bought my apartment, I realized I couldn't make ends meet. Let's say it's for the children. Ultimately, I'll never live there, but I realized that we're going to go into the negative here. So I actually, for the first and only time in my life, used a credit card paid basically for food with the credit card. But then after that, I filled the credit card up, and I've never used it since. And I don't think I'm going to. So I have this beautiful credit card with this extremely high limit. In fact, one other bank I go to offered me this nuts limit of like, basically, you can buy a car whenever you want, man. Just put it on the card. So, which is a compliment in a way, but in some ways it's an insult.
Yeah. What can I say? I've also never been in credit. Stayed clear of that. I took economics and finance, as some subscribers might know.
Oh yeah,
and you learn that it's all a scam basically, and there's no way out.
Yeah. Well, for me, I kind of also realized that because after I sort of bought that food there, and then later with the card, I did do one other thing because I had to draw cash off of it to pay back someone. Basically, like the next month, I paid back someone who I also borrowed some money from to have a thicker deposit. And of course, you take out 100,000 rubles, and all of a sudden it costs 103 to take out because it's a credit card and someone had to process something. So not good.
For everybody who's new here, hi, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. This is a comedy show, as most of my guests, as most of my guests know. Nothing here is serious. Everything is satire and parody. And considering it is 9/11, the day we record this, we had to post this, share this with everyone. What can we say? Everybody remembers 9/11 and where we were that day. But the most important thing is, you slept through it? I was coming back from high school.
I kind of woke up to everyone in Pittsburgh being in a panic. At the time, I went to university in Pittsburgh there, and so I tend to sleep in late. I am very much more of a night person, and I kind of slept through it because I believe it happened at some point in the morning. So I could just see people fleeing because, remember the fourth plane was headed somewhere in Pennsylvania, and so they actually evacuated downtown Pittsburgh.
Another meme for the people who are here just for the memes. Doomers. These are doomers. It's either over or we're back, and whatever happens, yeah.
Oh man, I must be too old for this one. I don't even understand this one. I'm sorry.
It's doomers, man. Like on the Russian side, like when the Prigozhin thing happened with his airplane, everybody was like, "Oh, Africa."
You call them doomers. I usually use the term black pill, but that's okay.
Well, black pill, but doomer, whatever. Same difference. Let's discuss
you talk about this war in Ukraine. There's been plenty of that since the very beginning. It's like, we've got to do this. We've got to everything's wrong. Everything's awful. No. How do you know? At least that Igor Strelkov guy who did a lot of that, at least he was in the military. So that was nice. These other people who've never even served in the army, it's like, get out of here.
He's in detention now, so that's good too.
Yeah, I think he took it too far.
Yeah, he took it too far, way too long ago. But there's all kinds of theories about him. Let's get to sports and your what did you say this was? Videos.
This is the playoff. That's the best game of American football I've ever been involved in. The first game of the playoffs there. We're in gold. I'm number 62. You might not even see me, but who knows? I don't remember where I am in the video. I'm an offensive lineman there, so I should be shoving someone around at some point. But anyways, this was us against the Capital Sharks, and by Capital, they mean investment capital because they're owned by Capital Investment Group. Awesome game, 48-46 or something was the score. A lot of scoring, real close, down to the final drive. Good stuff. Not seen a lot of me. Let's see.
And you were telling me this is the second league? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, this is the minor league. So that we actually play 9-on-9 in the minors, and that's actually why the minor league exists. It's to sort of have for the major franchises, it's so that way they can have a B team to practice, and for places where there's not a lot of population, so they can play with less guys because it takes 53 men to field a full team, but it takes 35 men to field one of these kind of teams. So I should have been on that last play, I think, but.
Do you have mostly like foreigners and Americans playing, or do you have like Russians as well?
No, dude. After the war started, I'm the only one, man. For our team, anyways. I'm the last. We had a hot cornerback, real good player, but he had to leave. Then he came back, but he works nights now, so he's kind of stuck. He actually
these are Russians. These are Russians playing American football in Russia.
Correct. I'm the only foreigner in this match that I know of.
I'm sure you've played with Americans as well. Like I'm saying, in your life before.
When I was much younger, like in stuff.
How would you compare the like attitude and the like aggressiveness or I don't know tactics? When, like Russians play versus other cultures that you've played.
Okay. Well, if you want to talk on a cultural note, I can tell you that one of the big differences in Russia, you're not allowed to speak to the other team under any circumstances. Whereas in America, there's always like this sort of like trash talk and psychology. If you want, you can hit one of the other videos. They're all the same. There's the trash talk, there's the psychology, there's sort of getting in people's head. In Russia, that's banned because since none of us get paid, well, there are a few people who do, and one team that gets paid, but not much. Essentially, if you allow people to trash talk, it's just immediately a fist fight. So they don't let you do that. This is our victory song. This is after we won the actual minor league championship. We did it. I'm in there somewhere, number 53. There, I'm to the left. The camera just blazed past me, of course. But on that day, I'm number 53. Moskva. There I am. And then after that, man, was a 25-hour bus ride back to Moscow. But anyways, about the culture.
5 hours?
So, yeah, on the team bus. So, and the thing is, man, I try not to drink
Where'd you
much
play?
Anymore. Huh?
Where was the game?
Novorossiysk.
Oh, okay, yeah. You said that all the way down south.
Yeah, it was crazy far away, so it was hard to get back.
Why would you go by bus and not train?
I went there by train, and I couldn't get a ticket back because it was in the end of August, and that's when everyone comes back from vacation. So, like, all the tickets for the train. I mean, the cost of the train tickets were like multiple hundreds of dollars because they were all filled up and stuff. So, yeah, so I couldn't. I had the team bus. I was kind of hoping that I could actually maybe get to know some of my teammates more, kind of listen in on them and all that. But they put on some really fucking loud, shitty movie from the 90s, so I couldn't hear anything. It was just this cacophony of them calling each other gay and this movie where everyone seemed kind of gay in it. So it was just, wasn't that good.
Shitty movie, like voiceover Western movie, or like shitty movie Russian shitty movie? It was a movie
from the 90s about the military. So for people who don't know, since the 90s was like when communism ended, there was a sort of the cinema industry and whatever all kind of opened up. And so I'll put it this way. A lot of people wanted to make these like art house, very critical movies of like Russian society. And they all wound up being critical in exactly the same way as liberals do. So I don't know. All the movies of that era, all are just exactly the same. Very extreme depictions of drinking, art house style, no real plot. But that one was about a guy who goes to the military, and I don't know. Maybe to Russians it makes sense, but to me, and especially hearing it on a bus, was rough. One of the other things too is the bus driver was a smart man. He went and bought 5 liters of grappa or whatever that is, the Italian hard liquor, and he after the match was like, I bought this 5, and it looked like more than 5 liters, to be honest. It looked more like 8, but they don't make 8-liter bottles. So it could be 10. But anyways, and he was like, I got all these liters of grappa. How about you guys buy it? So the guys already bought alcohol. Then they added 5 more liters of this grappa on it, and not all 35 guys are on the bus, so everyone was wasted. At some point during the bus, there's 2 guys just naked fighting behind me in the seats behind me. And it was a real fight too. But it was jiu-jitsu, kind of. So they weren't striking, but they were kind of more doing like that whole like
bending and breaking.
Yeah, the bending and twisting and all that other stuff. So so it was overall I liked it. I just hated that movie because, like I said, I really wanted to get to know the guys I play the sport with better and hear more about their lives. But because this retarded shit that they put on TV, I couldn't hear one word anyone was saying to each other. So I was like, fuck this. And then people were like, Tim, tell me about the usual kind of stuff of like, Tim, why did you move to Russia? No, we're not talking about that. But why not? No. Yeah, I really wanted to find out more about them than to talk about me. I don't want to put all the attention on myself. I'm the least important guy there. Reserve offensive lineman. I'm not super critical to the whole thing. But anyways, the culture of American football here is definitely hardcore. And I would say one other thing too about Russians is they do tend to take things ridiculously seriously when they do them. And so I didn't go to like this high school. Like there's these high schools in Texas where they really take the sport seriously. And they really know what they're doing. And to be honest, the way I was trained up, I'm actually sort of in some ways bitter because I was in the United States and yet we had such a shitty American football program. Like compared to the training you get here and sort of the wisdom and stuff. I really got let down by high school. It wasn't like that. But ultimately, we're still very far away from the NFL, and I think we're still very far away from the XFL. When you watch, I saw recently a little bit of like college football of these like no-name teams playing. I was kind of like, yeah, that's kind of like where we're at. That's kind of what our league looks like no-name college football.
So your goal is World Series, huh? Eventually.
Oh, well, I don't know. It would be, of course, we've wanted for years to have some sort of match where we would get some sort of not that good college football team to come over here and to have like some exhibition match, because I guess we should get into it because sometimes you are a comedy program, sometimes you're a political comedy program. But
no, it's all comedy. Nothing has to do with reality. No, it's all jokes, man.
All jokes. Okay, well, I can tell you the eternal joke of my life is that I constantly have to go on Russian television, and I think people sort of given up for now. But at least over the past 10 years or whatever, one of the key questions that I always get is, Tim, how can we the Russians, send a message to America, not like a violent way, and it's in more like a reaching out, like extending the olive branch or increase intercultural communication. And I've said a few things, but I think ultimately it's American football. It is our lifeblood. It is our alpha and our omega. It is our everything. And they look at me and they either laugh at me or they don't believe it.
More than baseball?
That's why Russian American bad communication, because we can say that, trust me, as you've probably heard, American politicians are very they live in their own little weird box and they don't give a shit what other people think across the world. Russians would think that they do care what that they are more trying to reach out to other people, but when there's something they don't like in the answer, they won't do it. Kind of like my ex-girlfriends. And so yeah, they don't like that answer that there's this violent sport and that's the key to they want you to say it's something like, well, if we all would just read Hemingway. That's the kind of answer they want. But that's retarded because no one in America reads it either.
That is true. But really, you think American football is more of like American staple than baseball is?
Yeah. Well, if you want to look at the money, it is. I mean, let's even ignore baseball. I'm not sure about the future of the dollar, but FIFA is soccer is the most important sport in the world, and FIFA you would think would be the big dog in terms of earnings because they get their chunk of the pie from everything. The NFL makes 3 times more money.
Yeah, but everything's more expensive in the U.S. We know that, but the point is,
but it's U.S. versus the entire rest of the world, including very expensive places like the entirety of Europe.
Maybe that's why they call it. Maybe that's why they call it the World Series. No, seriously speaking, though.
Well, that's baseball. Yeah. Well.
Oh, that's baseball.
Well, if they would invite the Cubans to play, then it would be the World Series because they love their baseball.
I just didn't know that American football was more popular than baseball. But the more you know. Oh, yeah. For everyone who doesn't know,
you mentioned before this, and so this is something that's also important. Is recently, right before I did those 2 live streams, I was sort of informed that my father was basically going to die, but I sort of already had the live stream thing up, and I was like, well, let's do this because I rely on donations to maybe not survive, but to thrive. And I was like, well, got some donations, gotta get this done. So that's why I was in a real not happy mood. But my father survived, thank God, and he's still with us for the time being. But I can tell you one thing: he, coming out of a coma and all this and having tubes in him, he made sure to watch the game. He watched the Cleveland Browns, kick the Cincinnati Bengals butts First thing that came to mind coming out of a coma. And he's not alone, man. It's when you especially, the American Football Hall of Fame is in. I was born less than an hour's drive away from it. I'm from the real heartland of American football, and it's deep within us.
All right, excellent. I just wanted to bring to attention people who may not know and who may have been subscribed to Tim Kirby, but Tim Kirby is now Tim Kirby's Russia Reloaded because YouTube issues.
Took away my first channel.
Because YouTube. Well, just because you didn't brand it a comedy show. That's why.
No.
That was
I feel like I kind of copy some of the stuff you do, and I certainly copy what I feel in some ways like a cheap imitation of Mr. Flores sometimes. So and he's the one who I think was it you or him who came up with the idea of the comedy show, just in case comedy show label? Was that you or him?
I think honestly he did it publicly first, but I think we discussed it in private before I even became the working brother. Like he told me long ago that if you're gonna do it, like the only way to do it is to be comedy, because like everything else will get you into shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, basically I've had to. So speaking of comedy, let's see here. We've got a meme.
Let's go visit. I don't want my kids to be weird. 12-year-old daughters on multiple medications. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's the one thing about
homeschooling in Russia. I got a question for you. Yeah. If I've got kids in Russia and I get them homeschooled, I'm guessing this homeschooling is approved in Russian universities, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know about universities, but I definitely know that your elementary education, your whatever, 1st through 11th grade. There's no 12th grade here. Hooray. Your 1st through 11th grade. Yeah, there's homeschooling. I know people who do homeschooling and they really like it. Of course, you have to meet government standards and cover the sort of general material that everyone else studies with a little bit of flair, depending on what state you live in. But yeah, homeschooling is a real thing here. Yeah, you can do it for sure. And like I said, I know people who do it, and I've seen their kids grow up. And
but I'm saying, is there once you get to the standards and you do all the standardized tests, I'm guessing at the end, the certification that you get from the Russian government of having completed your basic school before university, you can get accepted into Russian universities, but can you get accepted internationally? Because I'm wondering, on an international scale, how is this homeschooling thing work?
Russian high school diploma has never gotten people much traction. In fact, Russian university degrees in the entirety of the West, even before this war stuff and came up, never counted for anything. In a Western degree here was always something, but a degree here in the West is as good as toilet paper.
That's insane. That's all I can say.
Well, that's how colonization works, baby.
No, this is how colonization works.
Toilet, Russian Soviet professor. That was a good one. I shared
that was
that
on your
I
channel. Yeah. I got it off your channel. I went to both your and my channel to skim through for some good content for everyone here.
Yeah, sometimes, man, I'm actually I actually sometimes think that maybe I kill my channel with my addiction to memes.
No.
If you think there's people who like memes are like my lifeblood, but yet I don't make them. That's one thing that's weird. I don't have the mind for it. I've never made a meme ever. Not once.
I've made a couple.
I just don't do it. I only consume them.
I've made a couple, but if you want the truth about any subject, just type whatever subject and then meme at the end and go to images and that's basically it. That's all you need to know about memes.
It's almost like a little bit of a truth capsule, like this one we're seeing here. It's like the beg manding. It's so nuts. It's been going on for a year and a half of begging for this, and it's just perfect. I really enjoyed Star Trek: The Next Generation, so that's also a little extra plus for me personally. But yeah,
sorry, I had to mute myself and cough up a little bit of a lung.
That's all right.
This is hilarious news.
To attack Russia? No, that's actually an interesting one because there's real debate as to why Mr. Musk sort of initially was sort of proudly using Starlink to participate in this whole thing, and then he stopped, and that's where you sort of get in this thing where perhaps he was threatened that they might knock his satellites out of the sky, or maybe he really thought that the entire West, that this would be over really quick, so he should do some Washington butt kissing. Then he was like, oh man, I don't know what direction the world is going to go in. So I'm not really sure quite what's going on with Starlink, why he was so active, and then he basically just kind of gave up on it. So I don't know. But I do know that at one point in time, Elon Musk wanted to make a factory in Russia, and he was in negotiations for that. But of course, it didn't happen.
From what I've understood about the whole Starlink thing is that he used it for like civilian stuff, and then the Ukrainians put it on drones. And then he was gonna, like, they were gonna send the drones to Crimea, expecting it to work, and they like, Crimea was never covered by Starlink, so basically he didn't turn it off, he just didn't enable it there, and then they wet their panties, basically.
Well, that's kind of weird how you could have it sort of not work in a particular region because the satellites are sort of, I don't know, but that's beyond my, I am not an engineer, certainly not an engineer of that caliber to really understand that sort of stuff. But I don't know, that's kind of, that explanation is a little weird to me, but whatever, you know, who knows?
What do you make of the Blinken most recent visit to 404, where he toured the cemeteries? This is 2014.
Make of it, it's a little weird that they would acknowledge that anyone died, because we're supposed to be deep into fantasy land, and that's kind of like, oh boy, oh no. Whew, okay.
That one's titled Results.
That's you know, those memes that involve actual people dying, those ones are they're a bittersweet candy.
Listen, all I can say is dark humor is like cancer. Not everybody gets it.
Well, if you're born in Cleveland, we all have it. That's the Cleveland sort of like psychological survival mechanism. Like, I know very few people from Cleveland who aren't like really dark and jaded. It doesn't matter what your background is. You could come from like a wealthy, uppity family or something, and you'll still be dark and jaded as like a homeless guy. But that's the Cleveland lifestyle. But anyways, about his visit there, I don't know. I do know I shared a nice meme where apparently they put up a sticker in the on the McDonald's he visited. So that's nice. Now people will know for years to come that he visited it. But besides that, you kind of never know at these visits. Usually there's some sort of message that is sent. But, you know, like when Boris Johnson went to first visit Zelensky, that's kind of what people say, that the real negotiations between Kiev and Moscow sort of broke down. So generally, every time there's a visit, there's usually some sort of objective to the visit. But the problem is, you know, unfortunately, maybe there's some people out there who have the amazing political foresight to tell you exactly what that is, but I don't know. We could say that maybe there's already sort of in mode like, okay, we've kind of, if he did go to a graveyard and voluntarily get photographed there, it could be like, well, we've pretty much lost this one. How are we going to get out of this and still get something good? That's possible, but to be honest, my gut tells me my brain tells me logically that makes sense, but my gut tells me that didn't happen. So I'm going to contradict myself because I feel like.
Speaking of contradictions, Romania and Poland have started to talk about taking parts of Ukraine and sending in peacekeepers.
Openly?
Yeah, openly.
Because they've talked about, like, they've hinted at this for a long time, but I mean, like, openly, like the actual government.
Openly. Openly, apparently. Like, if you believe everything on Telegram, and plus this is not Geopolitics channel, this is a comedy channel. For the sake of humor, we're going to pretend this is real. So this is Romania, and this is like the parts that they want to take of up. This is Transnistria or Moldova here, and Transnistria over there, and so on. And that, and this is the Galicia that the Poles are talking about. So
You want to know the irony of the Poles wanting to take that region? That's the region that is the region that generated all the real hardcore neo-Nazis.
Yes, I know.
That's where all
I
the
know.
Galicians. Hmm?
I know. That's where all the like genocide stuff
Oh
happened.
yeah, so that's kind of in some ways hilarious because like they attack the Russians and then the Poles are just going to wipe them out of existence. Because dude, if I know one thing, this is Eastern Europe, and Poland is, it likes to kind of pretend that it is the doorway to the West, that it is this like the nation, that's their sort of national identity as being the protector of like Europe and the West from evil
Time out.
Russian communist invaders, evil
Time out.
Mongolians, evil Ottomans. And
Aren't you? Hold on. Aren't you like ethnically Polish? Like,
more
like,
so than Russian, yes.
yeah. That's. I just wanted to like put that out there because like you're giving this insight into
Yeah,
the
well, I have
Polish
a bunch of
mentality.
family members who are like straight Polish. Although, unfortunately, due to circumstances, they've kind of all had to move to England, as you well know how that goes in the EU.
Yeah, but you were saying about the Polish mentality basically being the door to the West in Europe.
Like people have different, I don't know, their perception of themselves. And one thing that people don't really understand is that Poland has actually built up sort of what their national identity is, this identity of being the sort of defenders of Europe, as in they resisted Soviet communism, they resisted the evil Mongols and the Ottoman Turks, who were defeated by the Polish Hussars to a high extent. And so they sort of see themselves in that position, and it's going to be kind of ironic that they're going to just wipe the Galicians probably off the map. But one of the other things too to understand is that the Poles, although they again associate themselves with being the defenders of like the West, they still have a more Eastern mentality. And whatever is going to when the Poles go in there, whatever is going to happen in those woods is going to stay in those woods. If you catch my drift, there's something's going to be some cold-blooded action's going to go down there, and they're not going to let any reporters go looking around. So that's not a diss on Poland. I'm just telling you that's how things happen in Eastern Europe. I would not be surprised if you should never be surprised if anyone disappears in an Eastern European forest.
Or in an Arab desert. I just wanted to bring this back up because this is a map that I edited. It was originally like down to here with the let's say Black Sea closed off, but I added a bit and gave some to Belarus. Let Ukraine have this part, and obviously I guess predicted this part was already like colored in on the map, but this Romanian part and Moldovan part being taken additionally.
One thing, dude, I gotta remember, some of the Western mainstream media before this whole war thing even started accused Putin and the Polish leadership of having some sort of secret agreement about carving up Ukraine. And I actually hope that's
first true. I hear of this. Tell us more. Tell us more.
You might want to look that up. Probably look for something like Putin makes a deal with the Polish to secret dividing of Ukraine. This was before the war even started.
Knowing how like search engines work, especially after the SMO, like I'm not gonna look for that now. Like okay. I'm not gonna find that article now. Yeah.
But anyways, I actually hope that that's true, and not just because it would be as someone who's really associated with Poland and Russia, not just because it would be cool based on my genetic makeup, but because I think that would be better for security. Because, oh boy. I think Poland is a lot more sane, and some people are going to say, no, they're not. They're fanatics. I don't think so. I actually think that Poland is a lot more reasonable than some people give them credit for. And I think that with Poland, especially extending, like if Poland already sort of ideologically sees itself as this, the doorway and defenders of Europe and all that stuff, this Geopolitical is going to basically turn them into that again. I think that'll be good. I think that'll be nice. It'll be nice and clear who's where, and especially if this happens on terms where like the Russians and Poles, at least maybe in behind the scenes, kind of shake hands and make this nice agreement. That'll be a nice sort of restart moment for things, because Poland is like one of the reasons why the war is happening is because Ukraine was unfortunately turned into an anti-Russia, as Putin says it, and a lot of the time Poland kind of behaves a bit like a anti-Russia, but not to a suicidal degree, sort of in kind of a passive concern sort of thing, not a big deal. And I think it'll go much better. And yeah, and if the Romanians take territory, that just means there'll be more Draculas all over the place. Dracula, new ones, many Dracula.
Oh, excellent. I love it when people like when guests come on and embrace the whole comedy aspect of the show.
Yes.
The subscribers enjoy it too.
Well, I forgot. The real modern day ruler of Romania. It's not Dracula. It's Andrew Tate. That's a new oblast. Yeah, can you imagine? You're just gonna go there and just all pornographic studios, just all porn, the entire region, nothing but that.
Not
mix of Ukrainian and Romanian chicks, dude. Rock and roll.
From what I've heard of Tate, I'm not a big fan. But if you, my dear viewer,
I'll just put it this way: I love the message. I don't know too much about the messenger, and I'm not kind of can't really super respect anyone who's a pornographer, but he is really, really awesome. He's like one of the bad guy wrestlers, but in real life,
Listen,
he's awesome.
He's made some good points. Okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But the point, like if you look under the veneer and under the facade, there's a lot of dirt. That's all I can say without going too far on this comedy show. But
guy, man, his abs are rocking. He's got the abs. I don't. So all I got are shoulders.
And abs don't count for shit. I'll tell you that for sure. But you know what does? Supporting the working brother. If you are new here and you feeling generous, and if you're not already supporting the working brother, now you can also buy me a coffee. Everyone who has previously bought me a coffee and all that other good stuff, thank you. Now that that's out of the way, let's see here. We've got another little topic to discuss. Is Russia collapsing?
According to the internet, Russia is eternally collapsing. Russia's eternally collapsing. Putin has had cancer like 40 times, and Solzhenitsyn was right, I guess. I don't know.
So you're saying it's not collapsing?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's collapsing just as fast as. Remember how there was like a series of YouTube videos? China will fall apart in 35. That's it. Come on, do the collapse. Do it. Yeah, that's it. Perfectly. That's exactly it. So actually, dude, when the war started, like people even like me, we were pretty sure that to stock up on things that we sort of considered being imported. And so I bought a lot of shampoo because although all my hair is falling out anyways, I get some brutal dandruff if I don't wash my hair at least once every 2 days. I'm a very dandruffy person naturally, so I bought a bunch of it. And lo and behold, the war starts. They changed the label on the bottle. Same stuff.
I was surprised when I went there last November, which is almost a year ago now. I should really get to doing those documentaries. Leave a comment. Do you want to see documentaries of my trip to the Donbass, or would you rather I continue with this until the subscriber count? What do you think is smarter,
dude,
huh?
I'm going to have you on my channel. I've wanted to talk to some people who've been to the Donbass. That's one thing I get a lot of requests for, but most of the Russian reporters I know strangely, they're all really flaky when it comes to making plans. I'll be like, hey, would you tell me about your experience in the Donbass in an interview? You speak English really good. Okay. Well, how about we do Tuesday? Silence. Tuesday comes, Tuesday goes. And I'm like, okay, how about next week? Maybe. Oh, dude, are you afraid to talk on camera because you've been talking on camera in Russian? Why don't you? No, it's just weird. They are all really flaky. I don't quite know. I think it's something about being a gonzo journalist. You don't like being boxed in the schedules, man. You're gonzo. You're just filming shit. You're out there on your own, like fucking Vice with no plan and with no funding.
Let's see if we can get people to see the top. Oh,
no. That's a good one there. People sent me that one. Yeah.
There we go. AK's platform.
Yeah.
And
I mean, look
the
at
gay
it.
marriage one. It's hilarious. Like I would have never made the connection. But for everybody who doesn't know, the Working Brother is also on Instagram. Find me on Instagram. Are you on Instagram, Tim?
If you look at that map, like, I don't know, what is the gay scene like in Greenland? That has to be some real sad gay sex. I mean, I don't know. What is it like? Go ice fishing and then bang? Like, I don't know. I don't understand that. Homosexuality is a weird thing.
That's Denmark. Like, isn't Greenland Denmark technically?
Yeah, I think that's probably why it happens,
Yeah.
but it's still very, in your face there. I don't know. And Norway also adds that one weird island that I think Russia used to control partially. That's like above Norway. I forget what it's called, but that's also a place where it's just like Arctic miners, and they just get out of the mine and just all violation all night long. Yeah. So I don't know. Some places it seems more logical. Like in Brazil, they might be a Catholic country, but you can kind of get the vibe that might be possible there. But on those great northern islands in the Arctic, it's just hard to believe.
Hey, I just want to draw attention to the fact that this is not scripted. We were not going to talk about homosexual topics most of the time, and I had no idea that Tim was going to gawk at Romanian wannabe abs.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, Romanian wannabe. He's the if he was actually up for election there, he'd win. He just he's just perfect because he can filibuster like no one. Everything he says just sounds awesome. Like even when he goes way too far, like he's just like, you can't take headache medicine. No, it's hard because he does it all 50% American, 50% British thing. But he has this whole spiel about how you can never take a medicine for your headache.
Just never. He's Muslim. He's a Muslim, yeah? He's a goddamn Muslim. No, he's a Muslim. He's from a Muslim dad, and he's a Muslim. I think it's a Muslim
maybe.
dad.
I don't know. Yeah. Well,
it's funny. There's a lot of things that are funny about him, but we'll leave the Tate talk for another day. I recently, speaking of Tate,
passively Tatist.
Yeah. Passively Tatist. Speaking of Tate, you reminded me of Jim Tucker. I believe that's his name, right? Tucker on Twitter. I was watching Alex Jones and Soloviev live, and Alex Jones mentioned that Tucker's dad was working for Voice of America, which was an interesting little tidbit of information, both for you and also, I recommend going to Twitter, finding Soloviev live, and find that.
I didn't even know that happened. That has to be
I'll send you a link after we're done. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's absolutely hilarious.
I used to work right across the hallway from him for a lot of years, so he knows exactly who I am, and I know exactly who he is. So, yeah,
awesome. Maybe you can connect us.
Very touchy about certain stuff.
Imagine me talking to Soloviev. He would be jealous of my technical skills because he's pissed off all the time at his studio staff.
Yeah.
He had technical problems even during the Alex Jones interview. It was hilarious.
I don't know. It's kind of hard but he has a certain kind of way of talking when he speaks in English that's different. I don't know. He kind of turns on like a different mode. So, but anyways, I don't want to talk about the guy.
Anyway, yeah. We'll work our way up slowly. Maybe in a year or two, we'll get to Soloviev.
But again, man, like you say, abs don't matter. He doesn't have the abs, but he's in really good shape. So I respect that. I'll give anyone who's in like really good physical shape, I'll always give like a point, a point.
Listen, to. When I was much younger, I used to be fit, and then as I got a little bit older, still a long time ago, I gained a bit of weight, and my friends were like, "Oh, so you put on a shield so other people don't hurt themselves if they rub up against you." So that's what it's like. Body armor for other people. That's what it is.
Well, if we want to be really nerdy, in the Roman gladiator times, it's presumed that they actually wanted to get fat so that way they could get cut, bleed, but not actually take organ damage.
There you go. It is body armor. It is body armor. Awesome. Yeah. So, Tim, is there anything else that we haven't covered that you'd like to touch upon maybe before we call this talk over?
Let's see. We kind of talked about a lot of different stuff, but
Moscow and drones.
Tell us one thing.
Tell us also in like 2 sentences, basically. Moscow and drones. Is it getting annoying? Does it change anything? Do you feel it at all, or like do people?
Nothing changes. Nothing. And this is also another perfect example, that whole drone thing, about how America and Russia don't understand each other. Because there's someone here. If you were to ask, well, what if we create minor damage to an office building that may possibly kill one cleaning lady? Will that stop the Russians? No. And it doesn't terrify people. Like, the one thing is, Russians are not super personal safety conscious in the first place. Like, this whole thing about like, you even kind of noticed that during COVID, like everyone did the actual bare minimum, and in a lot of places they did absolutely nothing. So it's like the whole thing of like this, like creating fear with like some sort of attack, and this, it doesn't really work here. It's not an effective strategy. But in the same way, unfortunately, my friend, when Russia tries to communicate in America a message to America that tries to get a response out of people, of course, not via terrorism, it's always going to be official presentation. We, the Russians, think this, and if you were to read Dostoevsky, you would understand that we have these certain beliefs, and I'm going to speak to you in a very official tone. It's kind of like how at the beginning of the war, the perfect example is how, if you remember, Putin, for about 1 hour, a little over 1 hour, Putin laid out the entire historical background of why things got to the way they are and why they're going to fight. Now, that is a super Russian way of doing things. That is a reasonable way of doing things from the standpoint of history, especially for people who tell you that Putin is a madman, because madmen calmly describe, logically break down the rationality by which they do things for the public. That's how madmen operate. But
logically and chronologically. Don't forget chronologically.
but that's something that works in Russia, and then is not what works with America. It's got to be a lot more about feelings and doing something that grabs someone's attention. Again, like I think American football would, like nothing else.
Ukraine is a country. It's small, and Russia is a country. It's big, and we can't allow big people to like pick on little people. Isn't that what she said? What's her name? Your vice president?
You mean Kamala Harris or something?
I was gonna say Condoleezza Rice, but yeah, Kamala Harris said that a long time ago.
I don't know. But Condoleezza Rice theoretically speaks Russian, but I don't believe it. After I heard McFall, that guy speak Russian, it is brutal. Like, I don't know if you've ever, I don't know, because you speak 2 languages as a native language. Like, what does an American accent sound like in Serbian, and how hideous is it?
It's not pretty.
Because, like, dude, when especially McFall, because again, I never heard of Condoleezza Rice, but with McFall, it's literally like he's trying. Like this, like the equivalent I do for people is like, it'd be like if a guy goes up to someone who's Mexican, it's like, Buenos dias, muchachos, que porca, or whatever they say, como estás? Like, that's how he speaks. It's like, holy cannolis.
Do you mean it's like this? If I was to talk British, if I was to talk in a British accent, it would be something like this, right?
Well, dude, I hear that in Russian. Like, I don't know, like here. So it's like, я постараюсь поговорить по-русски сейчас. Я постараюсь поговорить по-русски сейчас. But you can hear that they're British. The Russian don't. They don't hear it. I do. It's nuts because, they have those really big fat vowels, British people consonants. I don't like these consonants. Call British. Consonants are forbidden. The letter T, F, R, fuck them. Nope. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y, bitch. That's how we do around London.
I never thought about it that way, but now that you point it out, it's obviously that.
Well, that's the whole meme. You up, Mike? No consonants.
Was that, well, not the British thing, but the thing we were talking about before? Was that all you wanted to say before we rounded up?
I would just want to say that I guess is on it to end the comedy show on a serious note. Is I really, really, really wish that, but maybe excluding my dream of this American football connection, that Russia would, first off, people would listen to me here rather than just invite me on shows to nod their heads and be like, dude, you're so insightful, and then not ever use my insight. That's number one. Number two is, even if I were to die tomorrow, God forbid, I would really appreciate it if Russia would get out of its comfort zone and actually try to send a signal and actually try to understand the West in order to communicate with it, because they do a bad job of it.
So, like, cut an internet cable or something between like the UK and the US.
An internet cable. I know. Well, the first thing would be is through media. Well, the problem is because Russians also have a certain little bit of snootiness. You know, that video game, that Atomic Heart. I mean, that was one of those things where that's from Russia. Somehow it got released in the West, and people from all over the world were really enthralled by like some of the imagery of it, and it sort of like touched your subconscious mind, like the American media here does, and the media really informs a lot of our perceptions. And so I try to tell Russian people, like, look, the way we see the world is forged by the media. We should really here try to make good media, good Hollywood, or the equivalent of Hollywood, Moscow wood movies, and the video games and all that project a different message. Because here, well, I'll tell you this in closing. If there's anything that I'm starting to get really annoyed by in Russian society, it is we're going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, we're the traditional, we believe in traditional values. We're a conservative Christian society. Did you hear about our traditional values? Aren't you jealous in the West? Okay, could you please describe how these traditional values work, how the Russian political system and daily life reflects them? No answer. The crickets chirp. And that's another thing that we really need the media for, because the media kind of, again, shows us the models of behavior that we copy. And when we talk how it's awesome we live in a traditional society, but our media doesn't really show much of that, then we don't really live in a traditional society, and our children are still being raised by the West. So there you go. A lot of problems on the informational, ideological, communicative front. We're sucking it up big time. Lots of suck.
I just wanted to, because I remember there was another topic that we were going to talk about, but we skipped through it.
What is it?
Why won't this war just end? You uploaded this video less than 24 hours ago. And you talked about how basically parts that have been taken into Russia, as in the new oblasts, will not be able to be frozen in conflict halfway through, because like there can be no ceasefire that divides them. Basically, is the summary.
Well, yeah, like one of the reasons why the war can't stop is for a few reasons. On the Russian side, it's because they changed the constitution, and Russia cannot cede territory anymore. That's in connection with how in 1991, Russia ceded a ton of territories. The Soviet Union fell apart. So they made it in the constitution, so that can't happen again, which means that essentially Russia could not, by any mechanism, agree to any agreement that would cede territory, because when it brought in the 4 new states, Zaporozhye, Donetsk People's Republic, Lugansk People's Republic, and Khersonskaya Oblast, they brought them in with their borders from the 1991 lines, and some of that territory is controlled by the Ukrainians, so they essentially can't agree to anything. They're stuck in a legal sense. And so that's one of I talked a few more reasons about why the Russians are stuck, but that's one that people don't really see very much. And obviously the other side is kind of in the same setup, because to be honest, once they sort of come to a peace agreement, everything could really fall apart there. Of course, in this video, the live stream, I was more prepared and the answer was much better. But
we can leave a link. We'll leave a link. We'll leave a link to the video in the description.
Yeah, it's best because I was more in the mode. Right now I'm kind of already starting to doze off here a little bit. But essentially on the US side too. One thing this is something that people don't really think about is that I was trying to think another reason why the West can't just give up on this, because they've given up on other stuff, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on. So it's the problem is because at this point, the West could actually really seriously fall apart. And the people who are, let's just call them the sort of evil boogeyman, stereotypical people that a lot of
types.
Yeah, the Sorosian type.
Yeah.
They have to exist somewhere. And well, what if the West falls apart? Well, where do they go? Well, there's nowhere to go. And they're despised by a lot of people in the rest of the world. So in some ways, this conflict kind of has to keep going to keep the West in some ways looking like, basically, if this conflict goes in a way that causes severe problems in the West, all those people might actually meet their end. And so it's their survival's on the line, and they've got a lot of resources, and they're quite evil. So there's a good reason why this is going to go on, because like I mentioned in the video, there's no Miami mansions for anyone like Zelensky. If the United States has some sort of serious economic problems that, God forbid, cause some sort of deep trouble in America, no mansions for you.
All right. Tim, thank you so much. You've given us insight into all kinds of things.
I'm out of here. Yeah.
All right. Hold on 1 second. Let me play some music. Everyone, thank you. Have a good one. See you later.